Hello, welcome back to my channel. I have been trying to find my reading taste for like 4 years now, and I still have no clue. I have some of a clue, I think, but I'm still like just flailing whenever it comes to picking books that I think I will actually like. So I saw this Find Your Reading Color type quiz on Just Martine's channel. I think she mentioned it in one of her vlogs, I think. And I'm not gonna lie, I have tried it before. And as far as I could tell, I think I was like orange, but blue, like very close second. And the stuff for the orange didn't really seem like that was something I wanted to read. So we're going to try it again and see if I get better recommendations. So basically you get hypothetical book summaries, and then you have to say how likely you would be to read that. So a poetic memoir weaves together fragments, dreams, journals, entries, old text, chronicling the author's healing after grief. I don't like poetic writing and I don't like memoirs, so I would definitely not read that one. Then we have a woman falls in love with a man through anonymous letters exchanged in library books, never meeting until fate intervenes. I don't love romance books, but I do love libraries and the whole like anonymous letter thing, so I would probably read that one. In a city run by corporations, a lone data hacker risks everything to uncover the truth behind a mass digital blackout. I can't really tell if this is like dystopian or thriller or sci-fi or something, but I might read that. Depends on like the other stuff around it, like the characters and a bit more info about the setting and stuff. Anyway, in a shattered world ruled by elemental warlords, a cursed warrior and an outcast prince form a forbidden bond that could remake the realm. That does sound interesting, so I would probably read that. A solitary monk walks across America, encountering strangers who subtly reshape his inner life and beliefs. I'm not gonna lie, that sounds kind of boring, so I would probably not read that one. Drawing on neuroscience and ancient philosophy, this guide helps overthinkers learn to make better decisions. I don't really think it sounds like something I would need. Maybe I overthink a little bit, so I say I would probably not read it, but it's not like completely out of the question. A surrealist artist discovers her paintings are portals to real worlds, and something is starting to come back through the canvas. That sounds like fantasy horror stuff. I'd probably not read it because horror stuff like that is not really for me. Like if it was going into a portal fantasy world, that would be for me. Anyway, a grumpy CEO starts to rethink what's important to him after he falls in love with the new VP of marketing. I would definitely not read that. Like I said, I don't really like romance, but I don't know. An ex-assassin hiding in Alaska must confront his past when his daughter is taken by a vengeful arms dealer. That sounds like a thriller. I would definitely not read that. A chef journeys across post-Soviet Europe searching for the recipes that defined her grandmother's lost homeland. Again, and this phrasing of the question is like, is it an actual memoir or is it fiction? Because I think if it's a memoir, I don't want to read it. If it's fiction, I might want to read it. But I think it sounds more like a memoir, so I would definitely not read that one. A multi-generational novel told from the perspective of a single house and the people who lived, loved, and died within it. I do like multi-generational novels, but I don't know, I have to have time to connect to the characters, and this sounds like it's pretty fast-paced with people who like live in the house, so we probably wouldn't have a whole lot of time with a lot of the characters, but so I might read it. A deep dive into how food systems, global trade, and local economies shape the way we eat and how to eat better. I would definitely read that. I actually have Ultra Processed People, I think it's called, home from the library right now. So I feel like that's kind of the same as that summary. A linguist and an ex-CIA operative must decode an ancient manuscript before a secret society reshapes history. I do like the linguist and the ancient manuscript, but I'm not sure about the ex-CIA operative or the secret society. So I might read that. Again, it sort of depends on the other stuff. A novel told entirely through footnotes and deleted Wikipedia entries reconstructs the life of a time traveler who never existed. I would definitely not read that because I absolutely despise footnotes in books. A struggling screenwriter falls for the nanny of his ex-wife's kids in a story filled with awkward charm, bad coffee, and unexpected kisses. I also would definitely not read that because I do not like kids in stories. In a future where dreams can be uploaded and bought, a woman begins to lose the line between memory and product. That sounds a little too headspacey for me. A former Silicon Valley exec shares what broke him, what healed him, and how to live a more intentional digital life. I probably would not read that because that sounds like a memoir. A rescue team in Antarctica picks up a distress signal from a base that officially doesn't exist and never did. That, again, doesn't really sound like it's for me. A cultural critics essay collection on the end of privacy, the aesthetics of apocalypse, and what comes after capitalism. I'm not sure I love an essay collection, but the topic of it sounds interesting, so I might read it. A woman uncovers a box of unsent letters and begins to rewrite the story of her childhood. Now, again, I do love like unsent letters and discovering people's lives through that. But if it's just a story of her childhood, I'm like, it sounds boring. So I'd probably not read that one. I feel like I would not read like 90% of these books. A clear no-nonsense manual on how to lead teams with empathy, structure, and long-term vision. I do not want to lead anyone, so I definitely won't be reading that one. An ornithologist joins a rogue expedition into the Congo to find a supposedly extinct bird, then the team starts vanishing one by one. Again, like half the summary is intriguing to me, like an ornithologist and going on an expedition to find an extinct bird. But then there's like a horror thriller element, like the team starts vanishing one by one, that I'm just not interested in. So I might read it. In an alternate 1800s, a woman disguises herself as a man to join a pirate crew in search of a mythical island set to grant second lives. I'd probably read that one. A box of mementos hidden by her late husband sends a young widow on a cross-country road trip through memory and mourning. I like a box of mementos and a cross-country road trip, like a to-do list, bucket list sort of thing. But it sounds a little too heavy with the whole grief and mourning thing, so I might read it. Okay, so I still got an orange reader with 40%, and then it's the green reader that's close behind. So orange reader, I'll explore my type. Yes, you are an orange reader. So we thrive on masterful world building, looking for stories with imagination, exploration, and vivid storytelling that transports them far beyond the ordinary. That sounds true. Expansive worlds, epic adventures, and richly detailed narratives that ignite a sense of wonder and possibility. Reading is about discovery, excitement, and embarking on journeys that stretch the boundaries of imagination. Okay, so the books for an orange reader are immersive, expansive, and filled with boundless imagination. Epic fantasy realms, futuristic landscapes, or historical adventures, they crave narratives that transport them beyond ordinary boundaries. Richly detailed worlds, complex plots, and unforgettable characters who embark on extraordinary journeys. We read to explore, discover, and imagine new realities, often seeking escape and inspiration in equal measure. Yeah, that sounds great. But then we get to the recommendations. And let's see, it also says like my fiction preferences, epic fantasy and richly imagined sagas. And I have to say epic fantasy, not so much, because I recently just DNF'd Malice by John Gwynne and The Sword of Kaigen by Emil Wang. And I feel like both of those are epic fantasies. And especially in the case of Malice, I feel like it was setting up for the entire like long book series. I can't remember how many books are in it, but the book itself was quite long too. So not a lot is happening in the actual book because we have to build like this really strong foundation before we start on the action. And that was the same with The Sword of Kaigen. So I feel like those big epic fantasies, also like Brandon Sanderson and stuff, it's too big for me. I like YA fantasy. You know, you just like get on with the action and not like too complicated world building. I still need a good world with a good foundation, but I don't need to like know every nook and cranny of it. Anyway, so science fiction that explores speculative futures and alternate realities. I do love alternate realities. I'm not sure about speculative futures because I feel for me science fiction can get a little bit too, I don't know, high concept. And then we have historical fiction packed with adventure, discovery, and immersive detail. I do love that. Dystopian stories that challenge society's norms and push boundaries, yeah. Imaginative tales that blend realism with fantastical or speculative elements. Again, not so much. I don't like the whole magical realism genre. I do enjoy Anne-Marie McLemore and their work, but I feel like that's like 90% magic and 10% realism. So it definitely needs to be of that ratio. If it's like 90% realism and 10% magic, I'm like, no. And as for nonfiction, let's say we have engaging accounts of exploration, discovery, and daring journeys, historical narratives that bring pivotal moments vividly to life, yeah, scientific explorations that push the boundaries of current knowledge, travel logs and adventure memoirs, brimming with excitement and discovery. Like I said, I don't really love memoirs or when people are just like, then I did this, and then I went here, and then we ate this, and then I did this again. So, and finally, thought-provoking essays or books that speculate on humanity's future. Again, I don't love an essay, but I haven't read a whole lot of them, so I might change my mind. But yeah. Anyway, then they have some recommendations. They have Dune, and I can't remember if I tried to read it and DNF'd it, but honestly, it doesn't sound like it's for me. Then we have Brandon Sanderson, like I said. I don't think Brandy Sandy is for me because I have read the first one in the Mistborn series. I can't remember what it's called. Then we have Diana Gabaldon, Outlander. That is definitely not for me because it's way too spicy. And then we have Shogun by James Clavell. That might be for me, but I think Gavin on Gavin Reads It All here on YouTube read it, DNF'd it maybe, and said it was kind of boring as far as I remember. So yeah, I feel like the recommendations don't really hit. And what did I say? The Green Reader was the second closest one. So let's see if there's any. The Curious Sage. A toolkit for navigating life. Whether a book offers wisdom they can use. They want stories and insights that illuminate real-world challenges and help them make sense of the complexity around them. The books Green Readers love are clear-eyed, thoughtful, and above all, useful. I feel like that doesn't sound like me. Rarely read for escapism or entertainment alone. I do that. I prefer memoir-style novels, nope, or stories based on real events. Drawn to fiction that explores resilience, moral dilemmas, or leadership. Not sure about that. Tend to avoid abstract, overly literary, or highly stylized fiction. Absolutely. Enjoy character-driven stories that model growth or insight, and appreciate narratives with historical depth or life lessons. Let's see. That's just non-fiction recommendations. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I could be interested in that. The Devil in the White City, I actually did read, and it was so-so. Then we have 2 about food, so Good to Eat and In Defense of Food. I don't know. They could be interesting enough, but... Oh, there were more. Okay. I don't think I would love those books. But let's see if there were a second set for the Orange Reader. I feel like the questions it asked were a whole lot of I wouldn't, like books I didn't want to read, and then I feel like it probably had a little bit of a tough time narrowing in on my reading tastes, so I guess it's just not me who's having a tough time. But let's see. There were some more books here. So The Name of the Wind, I did read that, and it was fine, but I wasn't like gagging for it like other people are. American Gods, I did read that too years ago. Like now I would never read a Neil Gaiman, just to put that out there. Anyway, I did read that and found it so confusing. Lonesome Dove, I have no idea what that is. And The Lost City of C, I honestly can't remember if I read that. I don't think I did. I think I read In Search of the Monkey God or something that has kind of a similar vibe, but I didn't love that one. So yeah, I feel like this didn't really give me anything. And you can sign up for free recommendations, but I feel like based on these, I don't think they would hit. So I guess I'll have to explore my reading taste by myself and hopefully figure out what I actually like. But like I said, I feel like I am narrowing it down a little bit with like the kind of fantasy I like, at least. So, but if you do have any recommendations based on what I've told you throughout this, please put them in the comments, because I would love to find some more 5-star books. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!